eMarketer is your trusted partner for actionable data and insights on marketing, advertising, commerce, and more. But did you know eMarketer also has a division focused on B2B media solutions? Partner with eMarketer today and connect your brand messaging with our powerful audiences. Visit eMarketer.com/advertise to learn more. Hello, everyone, and thanks for hanging out with us for the Behind the Numbers Weekly Listen and eMarketer podcast. And this is the Friday show that loves an airport sandwich. Chicken salad on a croissant? Yes, please. No one else?
Nobody loves an airport sandwich.
Love an airport sandwich. Yep, unpopular opinion, but it's true. Not a huge fan of the price.
Do you have your airport sandwiches with instant coffee?
Maybe. It's the best way.
I saw an article about an instant coffee brand that actually tastes good, and I didn't get a chance to read it, partly because I think it was probably fake news.
Wait a second. Or why are you guys talking about coffee? Are we at the dinner party data part now already?
No, you don't have any anyway, so you better hope we're not.
Suzy
is greatly unprepared.
You can tell what my dinner party data is about now.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Airport sandwiches probably won't. I'm your host, Marcus Johnson, in today's show. Now that OpenAI's SearchGPT is here, what happens to search? What is the best way to market through emotion? What will be the November holiday shopping storyline? What do we make of the fact that we may have reached peak media consumption? And what are the right post-pandemic work arrangements? Join me for this episode. We have three people. Let's meet them. We start with our Vice President of Content, covering everything advertising, media, and technology. He is coming to us live from Maine. It's, of course, Paul Verna.
Great to be here.
Hey, fella. We're also joined by another Vice President of Content, also heads up our retail and e-commerce desk. She's based in New York City. Her name is Suzy Davidkhanian.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Of
and
course.
for including my flower for the first time. We have a peek at my
It's
flower.
in the shot?
Yeah.
Damn it, Lance. Get that out of there.
Very proud of it.
You've spoken about this. We're
What
also
about
joined by
tomatoes, Suzy? I know it's
someone.
not
Don't
tomatoes.
start, Paul. Okay, you're on thin ice already. Thin ice after that instant comment.
There's basil.
Coffee comment. Oh, jeez. Blake Droesch, ladies and gentlemen, is also joining us. He is on our retail and e-commerce desk, senior analyst, coming to us from New York City as well. What's going on, Blake?
Hey, Marcus, how's it going?
Hey, fella. Very good, sir. Very good. Okay, what do we have in store for you, folks? Well, we have a story of the week. We'll talk about SearchGPT. We move to a game. We end with some random trivia. That's dinner party data. We start, of course, with the story of the week. OpenAI's SearchGPT is here. What happens to search next? The addition of an ad-free search engine to ChatGPT will likely further shake up a search industry that has already seen the ground shift with the rise of Gen AI, writes Ina Fried of Axios. Kylie Robertson of The Verge notes that rather than launching as a separate product, web search will be integrated into ChatGPT's existing interface with results that look the same and provide links to sources for the answers it gives on things like sports scores, news, stock prices, and weather, also including maps and additional images. The feature will automatically determine when to tab into web results based on queries, though folks can also manually trigger web searches. Initially available for paid ChatGPT Plus and Team users, paid enterprise and educational subscribers get access in the next few weeks, and free users in the coming months, likely with some limits on how often they can use the latest search models, according to the company. But I'll start, Blake, with you. OpenAI's SearchGPT is here. What do you expect that to do to the search universe now that it's arrived?
I guess the short answer would be nothing right now. A lot of the initial reviews coming out from the tech media are pretty underwhelming. There is a really good piece from TechCrunch's Maxwell Zeff, who basically used the ChatGPT search as a replacement for Google for a week and found that, while it is pretty efficient in surfacing some of those long tail search inquiries, the basic run of the mill, 4-word search queries that we use Google for most of the time. In that department, it really was falling short. So a couple of examples that he gave was just, to find out the score of the basketball game. He did a quick search, and it turned out that the score was completely off. He went to ChatGPT search to find out how earnings from a few different tech companies were going to impact the markets in the morning when they opened, and the responses that he got were basically saying that Amazon and Google, or Amazon and Apple, hadn't reported earnings yet when they already did. So clearly, it can't function in real time in the same way that Google and many other search engines can. If it can't really serve those core functions of search that people turn to Google for several times a day, then I don't think it's going to really be able to do much to disrupt search in the near future.
So I interpreted the question differently, in that I thought you meant like, what's going to happen to regular search? But maybe it's because we're doing all our trend reports, and there is going to be a little bit of disruption to search, like search engine search. But I don't think it's anything that they can't get over, because as we know, people have moved from leaning on Google search to going to Amazon to start a product search to going on TikTok. But still, when we say search, we often say, I'm going to go Google it, even though we might just be on Amazon checking for something. So I think it's so part of the lexicon, Google. And now that they have the AI empowered, I don't know if you guys are on the pilot, but I'm on, did they roll it out even? But I'm on the pilot of the AI overviews. It's changed my life. I love it. So there's no reason I'm going to go to ChatGPT to search there when I am not on ChatGPT often enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it's folks who are just there already and have been using it. Why not? Versus folks who are going to say, "I'm going to swap out on Google for this other search engine." Blake, to your point, it is more up to date. Before this update, ChatGPT's knowledge was limited to things that were basically happened from like 2021 to 2023, based on the version. Now it's giving you stuff which in theory is up to the minute, but to your point, it has to tell you what you want to know instantly, and it has to make sure those results are real time. So something it's tried to improve, but it clearly needs to do a better job of.
It's also not really contextualizing searches efficiently either. I think a lot of the times it is, the way that it is designed to basically serve a super specific answer. It really puts it into a silo where it's just giving you one piece of incorrect information, whereas the standard mechanisms of a traditional search engine are going to it's going to give you a list of links, but if it's not the top link, if the top link isn't the one that you're looking for, it's probably going to be the first 5 or 6 that's going to get you an answer. And I think right now what ChatGPT is really doing is it's serving as just an extra step to get you where you're going, and it's not really bringing the information that you need front and center yet, which is the whole point of what it's supposed to do. So if it's not achieving that goal, then it's not making anyone's life easier at this point.
Yeah. I am curious to know what people are going to use it for, because I feel like people will Google things when they have like a specific goal in mind. If people are shopping, a lot of the time they'll start on Amazon. If people are looking for flights, maybe they go to Google Flights or Maps, Google Maps. Sports scores, Google's really good at. So I wonder if there are slices of the search market that SearchGPT can carve out for itself by doing that one thing very, very well. It did say, OpenAI saying it's planning to improve the search functionality in areas like shopping and travel, adding voice capabilities as well. But Paul, I'm wondering how much you think this is going to change search, because Wall Street, they seem to be agreeing with what Blake is saying, which is that right now they're not expecting SearchGPT to be much of a competitor. That's exemplified by the fact that in the short term, at least, Google's stock dropped just 2 points the day of this announcement. So they don't seem too bothered by it.
Yeah, I agree that a lot of the limitations that Blake raised are more than the software being in a sort of like primitive state compared to what we're going to see over the years. I think it's like an inherent limitation of the way large language models are built, where it's a lot about ingestion of data sets, and then it builds a database from which you can draw. That's very different from searching for a game score or the weather, where it really has to be real time. But I do think that the nature of search is changing, but clearly things are moving in that direction, and you're seeing companies like Meta really lean into search. eMarketer just rolled out a generative search feature. So I think the nature of search will change. I actually see AI search becoming more intelligent to where it knows what it can give you, and it knows when it might have to direct you to a Google or a Bing or some other company that maybe partners with, ChatGPT or whoever it might be. Because, there was a time when conventional search engines were very prickly in terms of how you plugged in the data and what kind of results you would get. And then it actually got to where you would type something in that was a lot more conversational, sort of the way ChatGPT is now, and Google would be smart enough to understand what you are asking and return a usable result. So, I think we're getting to a point where there's just going to be more fluidity in how all search engines, AI-based or not, respond to more conversational search terms.
Well, and the cool thing about the AI overview is like I was originally trying to trick it to see like what are the, like what cannot get from it. And it knows, like you're saying, Paula, it really knew, like if you're asking me a very basic question, it doesn't even try and compile information. It just sends me to the link and it's like, go do it yourself.
Yeah.
Versus if I ask things like, what's the difference between this and that and another thing? And then it'll tell me in a bullet. It's like really easy to use. Our internal search is really like that as well. It's really great. And then it has all of the articles, charts, and reports underneath.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you ask it, did the Lakers lose on November 8th?
Probably not.
It'll go back to last year and say
what
yes, and the year before and say yes, but you don't necessarily know which year it's talking about, because the chances are that on November 8th or on any given date that the Lakers would have lost.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on.
And I just lost today by a landslide.
Yeah, congratulations, Blake. You won already.
It's like not even a contest.
The one thing from me to close out the story of the week is the question of how is SearchGPT going to help OpenAI make money? Because it's going to have to make money soon. One would assume, because they're hemorrhaging money quite a shocking clip. There was an estimate from Dylan Patel, chief analyst at Senior Analyst. He was saying that ChatGPT can cost OpenAI up to $700,000 a day just to run it. That's $250 million a year. And that's the current model. It's only going to get more expensive as it gets smarter, as more people use it. So it's a very expensive thing to run. They're starting out ad-free, but will they add ads later, especially for free users, and when? It could launch ad-supported answers, similar to what AI company Perplexity plans to do in Q4, partnering with the folks like Marriott and Nike to sponsor responses in its chatbot, or it could crank up the price on its paid memberships. I'm curious to know what its revenue model looks like, whether it just mirrors the revenue models that we've seen before from search engines. All right, gang. So what we've got time for the story of the week. Move now to the game of the week. Today's game, it's the super duper game. How does it work? 3 rounds. Today we have the random scale, fill in the blank, and fortune teller. The better the answers, the more points you get. We'll start with Blake for round 1. It's the random scale, where folks have to tell me where they land using the random scale. And the story is, what is the best way to market through emotion? Our Sarah Lebo was writing that data shows consumers remember and engage with emotionally resonant ads. She notes 5 ways marketing through emotion matters. 1, high quality video shouldn't just be technically sound, but emotional too. 2, consumers should feel included. 3, watch out for social media's negative emotional associations. 4, funny campaigns are memorable. And 5, people will pay for brands that make them feel happy. The random scale today, though, is asking, what is the best piece of advice when marketing through emotion? Those possible choices, as I mentioned, making sure your high quality video has emotion. Inclusion matters. Be careful with social media's negative emotional associations. Funny is memorable or make people happy. Blake, what are you choosing?
I'm going to go with funny is memorable. I think that's sort of this, timeless truth for advertising. And if you think back to all of the great campaigns, I would say upwards of 90 to 95% are memorable because they are funny. I can maybe think of one or two really memorable ad campaigns that are memorable and resonate because of just sort of the dramatic and or aspirational aspects. But I can think of countless examples of, candy bars and insurance commercials that have made me laugh. And even though I will never use their products, I still, remember these ad campaigns very
the spirit.
well because of how funny they were.
Let's go, Suzy.
So I think the people don't know that I asked you about a different question, and this is one where I'm winging it on purpose, in that I actually don't know that those are the right scales, in that I think it's more about creating a bond with your consumer that is authentic, and the medium doesn't matter as much. And if you understand your customer segments, then you understand what is the right emotion in the right time at the, like if you're a department store, you're going to have different emotional connection over the holiday period than you will over Easter or over back to school. So I think it's a little bit more complex than the way that we had it in the scale. But if I have to pick one, then obviously I pick the one that is
Point
about
of the game.
Yeah, I picked the one that has me quoted. It's all about making you happy. I mean,
you
obviously,
chose the one where you were quoted in the article from Sarah?
Correct. I did.
Nerve. Okay.
But I do think it's so much more than that. It's like you have to, depending on your brand, you have to understand, like, should you be nostalgic? Should you be funny? Should you make people feel connected to you? So I think it's a little bit bigger than the scale.
All right. Criticize the scale. That was a horrible answer.
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to win, so I might as well tell you what I think.
Not now. Not now. Paul?
I never win.
I 1000% agree with Blake that it's all about being funny. I will never, and will probably never set foot in a Taco Bell, but I don't think I've ever laughed harder at a commercial than the very first time I saw the Taco Bell Chihuahua commercial way back when, probably before you, Marcus, and you, Blake, were,
and me.
not born,
No.
but, and Suzy.
No, I'm just joking. I just probably wasn't in the US then.
Exactly. You were in exile, like I was for a lot of time.
Exile.
I think when you tickle that funny bone, it really makes an impression. I think humor is the way, at least to my heart. So that's how you win.
It seems like it's the way to a lot of other people's hearts as well. There's some research here basically saying when it comes to ads, funny matters the most. This chart here showing that folks put ads that are funny at the top of their list of ideal ad experiences, according to a 2023 Publicis and Yahoo survey. That's ahead of ads that get to the point quickly, ads with a catchy jingle, ads that tell a story. Number one was Make Me Laugh, basically. Shout out to the Uber Eats Brian Cox ad that is currently out. It's brilliant. Let's move to round two. We'll start with Suzy for round two. Fortune teller. It's where we predict the future. Aside from the election, what will the November holiday storyline be? Retailers grasp for holiday magic amid raucous US elections and 5 fewer shopping days than usual between Thanksgiving and Christmas, writes Jennifer Williams of The Journal. She notes that US shoppers' spending was strong in September, up 0.4% on August, but consumer confidence fell unexpectedly mid-October. The National Retail Federation estimates that American consumers' retail spending this November and December will grow between 2.5 to 3.5% year over year. That's the estimate. That would be down from the 3.9% from 2023's holiday period and 4.7% the year before that. But Suzy, fortune teller, what will be the November holiday shopping storyline?
So my headline would be something around like for retailers, planned, slow and steady will win the race. I think, like you said, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's financial strains. I think, the election is behind us, but there's always a transition uncertainty that happens that gets people, no matter who wins and if it's your side or not your side, that still gets people sort of a little bit worried before the official transition happens next year. So I think consumers are coming from a place of sort of, I don't want to say scared, but a little bit more cautious. And as a retailer, I think if you don't have a sense of urgency in your messages, if you don't have calculated promotions without giving everything away for free, if you don't have newness, if you don't have innovation, if you don't have a reason for people to come to you, they're going to go somewhere else. The one other thing that I think is really critical on the retail front is that we always think about the number of days between Thanksgiving and Christmas, whereas there is no consumer that thinks like that. So make sure that you, in your messaging, say, order by this day to get it delivered on time as a holiday gift, because otherwise consumers won't know the difference.
Paul?
I think the story of the fall retail season is going to be escapism. I think we have been through an election season that has been extremely taxing on people, and now this process continues, right? It doesn't just end on election day. It continues for an unspecified period of time, and that is going to put people in a mindset where they're just going to want out of it. So I don't know what that thing is or how you sell that. If I did, I would be, no offense to any of you folks, but I would be probably vacationing on my yacht rather than doing this podcast right now.
Unbelievable.
Or maybe I would, but I would just call in from my yacht.
Let me tell you, you cannot do that because they can hear the sound of waves.
Yeah, Suzy tried.
Yeah.
It did horribly.
It would be part of, people would just have to accept that if they want to listen to my wisdom, they're going to get some waves with
For you, Paul,
Marcus,
we might make an exception, right, V? Blake, what you got?
Well, I've got an answer to Paul's question, and that answer is Travel Tuesday, and that's going to be the story of this holiday shopping season. So, according to an article that was published last Sunday, November 3rd, CNBC, titled "Move Over Black Friday: Consumer Interest in Travel Tuesday Soars," it cites a McKinsey data point that says that search interest for Travel Tuesday rose more than 500% from 2021 to 2023. And I think that, there's been this slow but steady movement of people being more interested in spending on services over products. And that's going to eat into the holiday shopping season. And I think, a lot of these travel companies, credit card companies are going to have big promotions around discounts on travel. And, as Paul pointed out, half of the country, regardless of outcomes of the election, are going to want to leave and be somewhere else. And I think that, travel is a great way to spend your dollars this shopping season. And of course, that's a service. So for retailers, what does it mean? It means that there's going to be even less money to go around out of the consumer pocket for holiday spending. So Travel Tuesday, mark my words.
Or you do like luggage and bathing suits and towels and sunscreen. Are you saying that we're moving from Cyber 5 to Cyber 6 now?
Well, it's not a retail holiday, so it will impact not according to our forecast, which excludes travel.
You're right.
So, but it obviously will have an impact on consumer spending. So,
round 3, fill in the blank. It's pretty straightforward. It's our final round. We've reached peak media consumption across digital and traditional formats, writes our principal analyst, Paul Briggs. He explains that the 2024 Global Media Index results showed a plateauing of consumption in the 11 media formats measured, all down a fraction in 2024, except mobile, which was flat. As you can see here from this chart, it held fast at 3 hours and 48 minutes per day. But second place, computer time, fell 2 minutes to 2 hours and 50. Third place, social media messaging, was down 5 minutes to 2 hours and 20, etc., etc. So everything but mobile fell a little bit. So we've basically reached peak media consumption according to this research. Fill in the blank. We'll start with Paul. Your takeaway from this GMI research indicating that we've reached peak media is blank.
It's consistent with a lot of our forecasting, and it's a trend that started last year. So it was not surprising to me.
Okay. Blake.
I think the interesting thing to me was to really see the time spent with social and messaging decrease by 5 minutes internationally, and I think part of that has to do with just there's so much more digital entertainment out there that the international community at large is obviously hard to generalize, or maybe like moving away from just social messaging in favor of things like gaming and digital video that doesn't have a social component. But it does make me wonder just sort of what the role of social media is going to be on an international scale in the long term. I think, different cultures are so complex, but I do see maybe a long-term future where a lot of cultures on a large scale do sort of reject the amount of time that they're spending with social media in general and begin to scale back. So I'm very curious to see if this is sort of just an anomaly or maybe it is part of a long-term trend that, obviously social media is never going to become irrelevant, so to speak. But perhaps there is sort of a tipping point where communities and certain cultures just, decide that sort of this rampant social activity is not social media activity is not working, and they sort of revert back naturally.
There has been a bit of a fatigue factor with social, particularly around Facebook. And even though there's, TikTok is growing really fast, TikTok still has a smaller user base. So this could actually just be a function of people spending that much less time on Facebook, even if they're spending more time on TikTok, but it might average out to a slight drop in the total amount of time.
Suzy.
I think that sets me up for how I didn't understand the question, because the data is showing it's already peaked. And so I was like, well, how do you answer the question around what's the blank on if it's already peaked, which is there are pockets of growth. And I think as the marketer, you have to figure out where your consumer is and segment, really truly understanding your groups and understanding their behaviors and the country, wherever they live, and what their cultural identification and perspective is, so that you hit them where they are actually spending their time, because the averages show that everything is peaked. For me, though, because I am in retail, I would say I was very happy to see that mobile in general is flat. And we think of it as the conduit to shopping, to also being entertained, doing lots of different things. So it was nice to see that on the whole, that was flat.
So we were talking about worldwide numbers from this Global Media Index report that we put together with GWI. My question was whether we've reached peak media in the US. So when I had a look at some of our own forecasts, nearly is the answer to that question. Americans will spend 12 hours and 37 minutes with media this year. Again, that accounts for 1 hour on TV, 1 hour of mobile. If you're doing both at the same time, it's 1 hour for each. So that's how you get to 12 hours and 37 minutes this year. But we're going to add an extra 5 minutes to that time next year and an extra 4 minutes to that time after for the year after that. So not quite. We're getting close to it seems, but not quite yet at that ceiling. Blake, your point about what happens next, what does media consumption look like in 2025, particularly with social media? We've seen things basically be flat or drop a tiny bit. Does that continue, or does it go up again? And we're going to kind of hover at this level? Have we found our watermark? And because of that point, Blake wins this week's Game of the Week. Congratulations to him. 6 points. Suzy and Paul, 5 apiece.
Oh, well, that's kind of you.
Championship belt. Yeah, I thought that would cushion the blow if I made you joint last. Blake, championship belt and the last word.
I can't really think of. I have
Congratulations,
to say
Marcus,
I am
for your Dodgers winning the World Series. Nothing. You too, Paul. Mets fans. No one in the company, not even my dad, had to chase him down on the phone.
Listen, as a Mets fan, we were in a very unique position here, and while I will not say that I'm happy that the Dodgers won the World Series, I will say that I'm happy the Yankees did not win the World Series.
And the Dodgers had a harder time against the Mets than they did against the Yankees.
And that the Mets won 2 games against the Dodgers compared to the Yankees, who only won 1 game.
We can agree on that. It would have been a better series. That's right, Yankees. I said it. Well, congratulations to Blake. He wins this week's Game of the Week. The last question we were talking about peak media consumption. We talked about our Global Media Index report. If you want the link to that, you can go to that to see all of our media trends across multiple countries. The link is in the show notes, of course. All right, that's all we've got time for the Game of the Week. We move quickly to dinner party data. This is part of the show where we tell you about the most interesting thing we've learned this week. Blake goes first.
So this is some data from YouGov about airline etiquette. I love surveys about etiquette. I feel like I always jump at them whenever I see them. So basically, just
you could learn a lot. That's why.
Listed a lot of things. Touche. It listed a lot of activities on airplanes and asked U.S. respondents to weigh in as to whether they deem these behaviors acceptable or unacceptable. The most unacceptable behavior, according to 86% of U.S. adult citizens, was to let their children play in the aisle, and then 82% said it was unacceptable to get drunk on an airplane. Where a lot of respondents were split was around making a phone call, bringing a small dog on board, unbuckling their seatbelt when the seatbelt light isn't on, and leaving their overhead light on when the cabin lights are switched off. And then the behaviors that most Americans deemed to be acceptable were using a laptop on the tray table, waking up a seatmate to use the bathroom, which I found it surprising that a lot of people thought that was acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always nervous about doing that if someone's sleeping. And then the sort of the most hot button issue I think about air travel is the reclining of the seat. So I'll finish on that one. 55% said it was acceptable to recline your seat, while as 26% said it was unacceptable.
Yep. You don't. It's already an uncomfortable sleep. You don't need this. You don't need this much more room to get a good rest. Okay, it's doing nothing for you, and it's just annoying the person behind.
Wait, can you show us that again?
All right, for people watching on YouTube or Spotify.
Wow,
that's as much room as you're getting. I'm imitating a seat going back 1 inch because that's all you're getting, and it inconveniences the person behind massively.
I can't believe you redid that for me. Thank you. I feel like I just won the podcast. I'm not going to lie.
Anything for you, Suzy. Not anything.
It's the little things.
Yep. Did you say in the beginning, though, people think it's more acceptable for someone to get hammered out of their mind, blind drunk, than a little child, than to have a little child playing next to them?
Well, because like if you're drunk on an airplane, sometimes people aren't going to know. Like if you're drunk and you're belligerent, then yes, that's obviously highly unacceptable. But, some people are nervous flyers. Some people like to have, a couple of drinks before they get on an airplane. Yes. Do some people look at you weird when it's 7 a.m., 8 a.m. in the morning? Yeah. Is it a little awkward? But I think, human beings were not meant to fly. It makes some of us nervous. I'm not talking about myself, by the way, but it makes some people nervous. And sometimes, having a couple of drinks before you get on the flight is, it makes the experience a lot better. A kid running in the aisle helps no one.
What happens if you're both drunk and playing in the aisle? Same person.
Well, hopefully you're not a kid.
or if your kids are drunk and you're playing in the aisle, that would be a big problem.
Best of both worlds.
Blake, nothing about removing shoes?
I was shocked. I agree.
Hang on a second.
I kept expecting that to be like the first thing that comes up, or the most
controversial.
30% say it is acceptable to remove your shoes, and then 55% say it's unacceptable to remove your shoes.
Nothing on there about dressing gowns?
That would be pajamas.
Pajamas acceptable? No acceptable. All right, Suzy, you're up.
What is the third most drunk beverage globally? We have not talked about it yet. Oh, no, I'm
Third.
lying.
Are we including water?
Wait, what do you mean you're lying?
Correct.
Wait, well, what's
Coffee.
1 and 2? Water,
Coffee.
Water,
Third most.
tea,
tea,
coffee.
and then coffee.
That's why when you were talking about the airport coffee
Oh, you
up
went
front.
and looked up.
Yeah, but that was like 2 hours ago, so you probably forgot. Today is National Cappuccino Day, so I thought I would give you a few history/facts about coffee. Do you know how many cups are drunk in a year around the world? 2.25 billion. 60% of the global population drinks coffee. And in the US, that's about 63% of people who drink at least 1 cup of coffee a day. Do you know what area of the world produces the most, almost 50% annually of coffee?
Brazil.
South America.
South America, you guys are good. And I see the time ticking, so I can't go through how there's 6,000 estimated varieties of coffee and what happens with decaf coffee with the caffeine that they've extracted. So I will leave you with, do you know where coffee originated? So there's a region called Kaffa, and it is Ethiopia
Africa?
slash
I was going to say Ethiopia, North Africa.
Yemen. I think it depends maybe on how the maps were drawn. The origin story is 9th century, where an Ethiopian goat herder noticed that some of his goats were especially energetic after eating coffee fruits in Ethiopia. And in the 15th century, another story is that the Sufis documented that they roasted and brewed coffee to stay alert during rituals. There's a lot more to be said, but I will leave you guys with those fun
I
facts.
prefer the goat story. Paul.
Okay, so I'm going to be brief. The number of the week is 141.4 billion. And that is the incremental that is the incremental e-commerce sales and ad revenue that's going to flow to the non-triopoly companies, so companies other than Google, Meta, and Amazon in the next 2 years. And that is from our just published Future of Digital 2025 report. Just saying.
Congratulations.
Well played. I got one for you real quick. What are the right post-pandemic work arrangements? So there's currently no consensus, as you've probably read. So a few examples. Amazon is making all of its employees work from one of its offices 5 days a week from 2025. Starbucks just told folks they would be let go if they didn't come in 3 days a week. Dell's policy has required hybrid workers to be in the office 39 days per quarter, with folks choosing to stay remote ineligible for promotion or new roles as long as they stay remote. Spotify is at the other end of the spectrum. They went the other way with its chief HR officer reaffirming the company's work from anywhere policy. According to a 2024 return to office report from Robin, nearly 70% of people reported having a mandate in place. The average policy for those with a mandate was 3 days a week in the office. So there are a few stats here. One is, what are the consequences if not coming in when you're told to? 43% of workers said their employer has done nothing when they came in fewer days than requested. 15% had a reduction in pay or bonuses. 14% verbally reprimanded. 12% were told they could lose their jobs. 10% had a negative performance review, and 6% were let go. According to a Stanford report, Publicis Group just got rid of some folks because they'd refused to come back in. Or
Since
great
you
for morale,
introduced-
I'm sure.
Since you introduced this item by mentioning Starbucks, and we've been talking about coffee and air travel, I think the right post-pandemic mode is for all of us to be like the CEO of Starbucks, have our own private jets, commute in by private jet every single day. Just make sure you have coffee and keep your shoes on, please.
Paul hates the environment, apparently. But how do executives feel about return to office mandates? 73% of companies said they were struggling to get workers back into the office, according to 2023 Conference Board survey. 1 in 4 executives admitted they hoped for some voluntary turnover in the wake of an return to office push, according to a Bamboo HR survey. However, research from the University of Chicago shows that the workers who quit due to these policies are often the more experienced ones the companies can't afford to lose. And then finally, what does the future look like? A recent global survey from KPMG found 4 in 5 bosses expect a return to office 5 days a week within 3 years. Hope not. That's all we've got time for this episode. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you to Blake.
Always a pleasure, Marcus.
This week's winner of the game of the week. Thank you to Suzy.
Thanks for having me.
I'd say what's wrong, but I know what it is. You keep losing.
I lose every time.
Thank
I'm
you
going to
to-
show you the flower more. Whoops.
Thank you to Paul. Damn it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to Victoria, who edits the show. Stu runs the team. Sophie does our social media. And Lance and Danny, who run our video podcast. Thanks to everyone for listening in. We hope to see you on Tuesday for the Behind the Numbers Daily, the eMarketer podcast. Happy long Veterans Day weekends, everyone, especially to my dad, who served nearly 20 years in the US Air Force. Couldn't be prouder.